This is Strange Nocturnal, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com, the station of decapitation with Nasty Neil and Annabelle Lecter.
Welcome to the Station of Decapitation Without Your Head. I am Nasty Neil.
This is Annabelle Lecter.
And joining us here, we're honored to have him, Artist of the Month for the last 2 months from the record label Undead Artists, and he is the vocalist of 13 Shots. We have Johnny Rose.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing well.
Wonderful. It's nice to have you.
I didn't know if
Fantastic.
it'd be too corny or not if I introduced you as here's Johnny.
No, that's fine. I've always said if I was ever going to put out a solo album, that is exactly what it would be called.
Well, excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great.
Cover art with the axe through the door.
Of course.
I like it.
So how long have you been doing this? Here's a record label. What got this started? How long ago did it start?
The record label itself started in around May last year. I've always dabbled in doing it for 13 Shots in my previous bands, but I made the mistake of, well, I guess it weren't a mistake, an experience, shall I say, of signing over management and record affairs to a booking and record label about 2 years ago, and it went really badly, and really bad experience. And I came out of it and I thought, you know what? I don't want that to happen again. I don't want other bands to have to experience that. So I set up Undead Artists to promote 13 Shots, but also to support bands who I personally am fans of, to help them get the exposure that they need.
Now, how long have you yourself been doing music before you decided we should start our own thing?
I've been in bands now for around 15 years. I started quite young. I've done acting and performance and stuff before that, and then I moved over to music when I kind of discovered my love for punk rock. So I moved over to music. Yeah, and I've been doing it about 15 years. But even from when I first started, I always used to make up little record label names. And whenever I put out an EP or a demo for my band, I always had a little record label in the corner, because I always thought promoters would take you a little bit more seriously if you had a name.
Mm-hmm. So you just make
Well,
them
that's very
up.
interesting, because a lot of people that I've known that have been into music started super young, but that you came from more of a background in more of a stage performance. How did you end up starting in that realm and making the shift into music?
Well, I've been doing performance ever since I was really young. I grew up watching and idolizing the work of Laurel and Hardy, the Three Stooges, Charlie Chaplin, and I was very much down the line of doing that slapstick comedy. And I went to drama school, and because I only had the one, I was almost like an Adam Sandler, if you know what I mean. I only had one style of acting that I could do, and I didn't survive that long in drama school because of it. And when I came out of it, I thought, I want to try something different now, because I missed being on the stage. So I decided to do music, and after watching a few bands, and music's always been a passion of mine, and I thought, this is the time to move over. And I did, and I tried to bring all my acting techniques to the stage as a performer, as a frontman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you think that's really helped you for your live performances?
Oh, definitely, because I've never been the sort of guy who just stands behind a microphone wearing a pair of sunglasses, hiding away. I'm very in your face. And I think it helps as a songwriter as well, especially for the horror punk genre, is being able to approach it from a different view and try to think. The way I write a song is, I think, how would the music video look? Mm-hmm. And every time I write a song, I think, what's the music video going to be like? What's going to happen in it? And every song's a concept.
I just want to go back real quick, because you said, to start the Undead Artists because you had bad experiences with another label. Can you talk about that? What happened?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I've never spoken about it publicly, so I'm quite a private person normally, but as we're talking about it, I'm quite cool with that. Basically, we played a couple of shows for this guy, and he was setting up a record label and a management company, and he was very interested in us moving over to him. And I thought maybe it was the time to let someone else have a go. Maybe it would open a few doors for us, maybe get us in places where I currently couldn't get us. So we moved over and everything was fine to start with. And then the changes he wanted, then it was he didn't want me to write the lyrics the way I did. He didn't want the band to be in that genre. It was, we need to word it so it's different, so it's not horror punk because no one's going to listen to it. And I'm sat there and I'm thinking to myself, you signed us knowing exactly what we were as a band. We're not a standard horror punk band. We've got loads of different influences, loads of different styles in there anyway. Don't change the concept because the concept to me works and it's sellable. And then we went on a European tour in May with another band, and unfortunately, they were involved in a car accident halfway through the tour, and they had to go home with all our equipment and everything. And we're in Germany. We're actually at the UK Army base that's in Germany. We were going to play a show for the troops for charity, and we had no equipment. We had nothing, literally just guitars and merchandise. Like, I was almost tempted to do a boy band thing, and plug in the CD and just move the guitars around so it looked like we were playing. And I called him to see if he could help us out because we still had 3 or 4 shows on the tour. And his phone kept ringing out. He didn't answer. In the end, I had to sort it. And luckily I did. The only gig we couldn't play was the Army base. And when I got home, I found out that he decided he didn't want to do it anymore, and he'd gone back to Canada. And he'd published songs in his name, not in ours. And our first 2 albums are still online, and people are still buying them, but it's going into his pocket. Not into what we've never received a payment from the CDs. And, he might have only made $20 from us. But it's still the fact that I don't like the fact that he's got it.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
Yeah,
it's pretty disgusting that someone is really stealing your intellectual and artistic property. Like you said, it doesn't even matter what kind of money he made. He could be distributing it for free. It's the principle of this is yours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think though, in the long run, it was a great experience because if that hadn't have happened, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing now. And although, it's very new and I'm taking it all very slowly, and the artists on the label have been very patient with me. As I've explained to them, I'm learning as I'm going along, and they're being very patient with me. But I'm glad because I've got this experience now, and I'm working with some great artists on the label, and I wouldn't have had that if we were still signed to him. So I look at it as a blessing, really.
How did you go about picking the 5 bands?
Well, 4 of the bands are bands that I've been friends with for a number of years. I approached the only band that actually has approached me and I've signed is Strange Nocturnal. The others have been friends of mine, and I've approached them and I've said, look, I want to do a label. I'm a fan of your music. Let me help you. I've received a lot of other offers, but I haven't wanted to sign too many bands because I haven't wanted to let anybody down. I want to try and make sure that I can do it before I suddenly go off and sign 15, 20 bands and not do it. It's not about the money for me. It's not about being a big famous record label. It's about helping the bands and making sure that the bands get something out of working with me. That's the thing I've learned from my label experience, And that's why I say that Undead Artists is a label for bands run by a band, because I'm in a band and I do for my bands what I would expect for myself.
So you mentioned that your band isn't really just a horror punk that expands beyond that. How has that been able to help you in developing a diversity for this label?
It's helped a lot because I wanted it to try and be straight across the board and just be, if you've got the horror connections, then that's the sort of band I want. I want bands that are prepared to push the boundaries and not say, right, I've got to play the same 3 chords, I've got to have the devil lock, I've got to sing about this. I want bands that actually say, right, we are influenced by horror movies, we're influenced by the horror culture, but let's try and open this genre a little bit. Let's try and make it more interesting, which is exactly what I tried to do with 13 Shots. The album we're currently writing and recording has everything in there from ska to metal to punk to rock and roll to doom. It's going to be straight across the board. People are either going to love it or they're going to hate it, but I'm so excited to see what the response to it's going to be.
Do you feel like that, your openness to that, has also helped the artists under your label really feel that freedom to develop? Because I know a lot of people feel like they get into a label and they're trapped, that that's their sound and that's what you do and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, exactly. I try to give, basically the bands themselves are ultimately in control. So everything that they do, I ask to hear how it's going, and I'll give a little bit of input maybe on mixing or something like that. But the actual songs themselves are all, it's the bands, because if you sign a band as a fan of their music, I don't then understand why you'd then go and try and change it. You know, if a band's got an idea of the direction they want to go, the best results you're going to get from that band is by encouraging them to just follow the direction that they've got.
Because without that, there's really no more passion behind their music. They're just producing because they're making a product instead of making art.
Exactly. And I mean, a prime example for that is Strange Nocturnal, isn't it? He is a very unique character. His music is very unique. And you could say to him, you know, try and make it a little bit more commercial or this, that, and the other, but there would be no passion in it. There'd be nothing there that keeps him going. Where just saying to him, you continue to make that music and you continue to push that boundary that you currently have, and one day it will come good. You know, one day you will get the reward that you deserve from all them times of playing to nobody and all them times of people saying that you're not going to get anywhere. And that's how I try to do it with all the bands.
He's just amazing. I've known him through Without Your Head, and just he's prolific in the amount of sounds, and he's doing almost everything on his own. I've just been continually blown away by what kinds of stuff this guy makes. And he's pretty young, too, so I'm very happy that he's working with you now, because like Neil's known him longer than I have, and I really hope that he's going to go very far through you guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited about his the new stuff that he's working on at the moment, because from what I've heard, yet again, he's trying to push it a little bit more in a slightly different direction to what his last ones was, lyric based and stuff like that. And I'm really excited to hear what results come from that. But I mean, in general, this year is going to be a great year for the label, because you've got Strange, who's going to put out a new album, and I think it's going to be different. It's going to turn some heads. 13 Shots is going to put out a very different album. Raising Hell have got a new album that's going to come out very, very soon. And from what I've heard of that so far, it's such a step up from their last one. You can really hear how much they've grown as a band. And then just before Christmas, I put out this Sylphia and the Corpse Boners EP, and I was blown away by the quality of that. Them guys recorded that completely themselves. Their bass player didn't sleep for like a month mixing it. And the quality that they've got in that EP, I was just blown away.
Is there, because I know you guys play a lot, is there like a big audience for horror music in England, in Europe?
No.
No, okay.
In Europe, there is. In Germany, we're bigger in Germany than we are in the UK, and that's why myself and Tommy Creek from his record label have decided to step out and try and do a horror punk festival in the UK, which is happening on the 4th or 5th of April. It's a Saturday. Sorry, it's getting late. And we've brought all of the UK horror punk bands together. There's a few that we've missed out, and I'd have loved to have had them on, but we just physically couldn't fit everyone on the bill. And we're hoping that that's going to create a bit of an attention for the scene in the UK. But in Europe in general, it's growing, but it's not where it needs to be yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have friends over there, and I've heard that, it's just nothing like over here, whether you don't have the publications, there's very few conventions, but it seems like it is gaining some ground. Lawrence Harris from Human Centipede 2 and Tim Drive from Extro and Star Wars, they've both been in contact with us, and they're doing more things over in England. So do you feel that not just yourselves, but as a whole, people are realizing that there is an audience for this stuff, and people can develop these things and really have success?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm from Birmingham in England, and for the last couple of years, we've actually had a massive Comic-Con. And, a Comic-Con in the UK was never heard of. And now we've got the biggest one, and it is big. It's probably nothing to the size of the ones in the States, but it's a start. And it's the same in general. Everything's starting to grow now. There's starting to be that little bit of attention for it. But I don't think it will ever be as big as the States. But if we can get a little bit of more attention to it, that'll be great. What I found really interesting is since me and Tommy announced that we were doing the music festival, we've actually had a lot of American bands saying, I wish we had one in the States. And I'm thinking, well, you guys are like the leading for horror punk. How can you not have one there? I guess your country's bigger, so they're probably just scattered all over the place. But it was just really weird to hear that comment, because I thought, well, you've got them.
I just want to mention Tommy Creep's site is graveyardcalling.co.uk.
Yeah, that's it. And then the festival that we're running together, and Tommy runs theme nights of the similar name, is the Travelling Morgue, which is he bases that in Bristol, his event nights, and then the Travelling Morgue Festival is going to be in Birmingham.
Nice. Now, you want to talk a bit about the festival you just mentioned?
Yeah, that would be great if you don't mind. Yes, it's
No, please do.
It's a one-day festival that's featured. I'm bringing over a German band who I know very well called Jamie Rottenkorps and the Rising Dead, and they are a great German band, and I've known them for a number of years. And when we had our incident last year with the no equipment, we had a show. And I contacted them, and they provided us with all the gear for a show. And it wasn't cheap gear that they were letting us play out of. We were so scared of breaking it or even touching it to some level. So I wanted to return the favour. So as soon as I knew that the festival was going to take place, there was only one band that was going to headline it in my eyes, and that was Jamie Rottenkorps. So I'm absolutely delighted that they've agreed to come over. And then we've got, in my opinion, the best English horror-ish band is a Zombina and the Skeletons. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah, they've been on some of our mixtapes on the website.
Yes, they're going to be the next band down from Jamie Rottenkorps, and then the rest of the bands then are all of a similar level, but it's trying to bring everyone together just for one day. All the bands. Tommy's band Lupin Tooth is also playing. The full lineup is Jamie Rottenkorps headlining, Zombina and the Skeletons, Army of Walking Corpses, Gravedale High, Headstone Horrors, 13 Shots, Trioxin Cherry, Lupin Tooth, and the Bloodthirsters.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a very good night. And the best thing is that we're all a little bit different in sound as well. So it won't sound like you're watching the same band for the whole day. Every band offers something a little bit different. And that's the other thing I'm looking forward to seeing, is so many different styles and so many different influences, but all coming together under the one tag and the one belief.
I can imagine that would be absolutely fantastic fun. And that kind of environment. Now, over here, I've been to a few horror conventions. Neil's been to more than I have, but there really is that sense of community when you go. And then I think you get that circle of people that tends to stick around. And that's a wonderful feeling when you end up doing a lot of these things as you do. You just make connections and you see each other over and over again. You'll have regulars over and over again. It's wonderful, and I hope this is a fantastic success.
Yeah, I've got my fingers crossed. In terms of the States, 13 Shots at the moment, we're talking quite seriously about coming over and playing some shows in the States because the requests are getting quite intense now, almost to the point where we can't ignore them. So we're just looking at the various ways that we can actually do that and get over and play.
Is that what's that like for you to you get your music out there and it starts to be listened to from other countries? Did you expect that to happen?
I never expected to be anywhere where I am now. When I first started this band, there was not a chance in hell we were going to be doing tours in the UK, let alone Europe. And then when the Europe offer came, I ignored it for a while, and then suddenly I couldn't ignore it anymore. And we've gone, and every time we play Europe, it grows that little bit more. And then obviously what's going on in the States at the moment, and yeah, it's just crazy, really. When I look at our orders, I'd say only 3 or 4% of our orders and our downloads actually come from the UK. The rest of it is the rest of the world.
So, if you would come to the States, what were your plans? What, like, would you play at a music show, or would you play at a convention, or?
We'd be open to anything. It's more about the experience for us. We would love to play a convention. That would be amazing. I've spoken to a few American bands who have done that, and by all accounts, it's the best experience in the world. And then we'd like to then play some smaller shows as well. The thing is, as obviously you guys are aware, your country is the size of Europe, really, for us. So where to play would be the more challenging option, because you won't be able to just drive from one place to the other. Almost, you've got to kind of pick a state and say, right, that's where we're going to do it, and that's where we're going to play. So if we could get a convention, which would be a dream, we'd then just pick shows in and around that convention afterwards.
Yes, it's all in the same area. You wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
I just sent you a little Facebook message that maybe could be a good connection to do that in the Boston area.
Oh, fantastic.
No,
never turned down that.
Now, I assume that since you got into acting and now you do horror music, that you must have grew up being a horror movie fan.
Oh yes, yeah. I very much am a fan of the older, really cheesy B movies and the really cheesy sci-fi films. They're the ones that I really, really enjoy.
What particular
Perhaps
ones?
The Wizard of Gore.
Sorry?
The Wizard of Gore.
Yeah, and The Blob.
Yep.
The Blob.
I'm a huge fan of The Blob as well, and I've always tried to. There's not many living cast members left, because I've tried to get someone from The Blob on the show, but has not come about yet.
Yeah,
and the song from The Blob is quite good.
Yes,
The Blob.
The creature from the Black Lagoon as well. I really like that one. And then Forbidden Planet with Leslie Nielsen's always good. But my problem with that movie is because he looks so young and handsome in that film, all I'm seeing is the guy from Naked Gun. Like he looks great, but I can hear the Naked Gun voice, and I just vision him as the older man in the film, and I just can't get my head around it.
Can't separate the two guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's a massive complex I have. It's like Christina Ricci, who played Wednesday. Like she's a beautiful woman now, but if I look at her, I just see the girl, and it scares me.
That happened in a similar idea when we went to see Exodus recently, the Moses movie, and it opens up right away with and the Pharaoh is played by I forget the actor now, but all I could see him as was Jesus or Jesus from from The Big Lebowski, and I just started laughing. I was like, "That's not. That's a terrible person to be playing the Pharaoh." But yeah. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it must be a big problem for child actors to try and step away when they've been such a memorable character. I mean, I can remember when Daniel Radcliffe first stopped playing Harry Potter. He deliberately went out and done them movies that were so different from Harry Potter, and it just didn't work because it was just Harry Potter in a horror setting or something like that.
The Horns movie, because that Horns movie looks terrible.
Yeah,
that's laughable. If you see the picture of that, you just look at it, and even if it just looks bad.
Yeah,
I would see it because it looks bad. But the girl who played Hermione, she was in something that I saw over here on Netflix. It was a World War II era, very interesting miniseries. And I noticed her, and then as soon as I recognized her, then that's where my head went, was Hermione from Harry Potter.
She has a small role in This Is the End, which I wish you'd watch sometime, Annabelle. I think it's hilarious, but she plays herself in that, and it's just a small bit, but it's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah, there's only a couple of actors who have been played real major characters, and then I've seen them in something else, and they've been able to very quickly stop me from thinking about them. And it's David Schwimmer in Band of Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that. It's a war program, and he plays this really vicious colonel lieutenant. And you watch it and you go, "Oh look, it's Ross from Friends." And then about 30 seconds in, you're like, "No, that's not Ross from Friends." But it doesn't happen that often. It must be a real curse for actors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
So what was the first horror movie that really, really grabbed you, that you remember seeing as a kid and just either being scared out of your mind or fell in love with?
Probably It.
Mm.
Yeah.
Probably It. And I watched the movie, and it was good, but then I read the book, and it terrified me.
Yeah,
it just didn't. The movie was great, but the book was so much better. The only Stephen King movie that's done really well as a movie to me is The Shining, and that's just Kathy Bates is superb in that film.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably
that's a guy that I can't separate from all his other roles is Tim Curry, because he's been in so many different things that I watch it, and there's no way in the world I'm going to be scared, because he's been in Annie and Legend and all kinds of crazy Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, I was about to say Rocky Horror Picture Show.
No, I think he's great as Pennywise, though.
He's fantastic, but to me, he's just Tim Curry. Hey, there's Tim Curry as a guy. But that's a wonderful movie. The first part of it is, I think, is especially strong. With all the blood in the sink and the father turning into some rotten thing. That was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very, very much one of my favourite ones I remember from when I was younger. But you're talking about that with Tim Curry. How funny would it be if he'd have done it as the character from the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Mm-hmm.
It's
That would have been
Frankenfurter.
quite funny.
Exactly. We all float down here. Yeah. Yeah. I think that would work, actually.
I think
he could even still have the makeup on.
We're making this. It could be a spoof.
Exactly.
It could be a brilliant spoof.
Yeah, even if it's just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's get
right.
the Zucker brothers in on it. They haven't done a good spoof in a few years.
Yeah.
All right. But this is now decided. In the future, we will come together and make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good to me. If we come to the US, we should do we'll write a song purposely for it and film the music video as Pennywise, but from the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Awesome.
I'm totally for this idea. Now, have you ever written any tracks with a specific film in mind?
Not really. I've always just gone into my head and then gone from there. I think the only song I've ever written and I've had a specific target in mind was First American Sweetheart that I wrote about Mary Pickford.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the only one that I've ever done it. Oh, and Tales That Start With a Whisper, which is my personal attack on the Twilight movies. I wrote that. I wrote that with a personal attack in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not a fan of the Twilight films?
I'm not a fan of the Twilight films, but I think if, without wanting to admit it, I actually think they've done the genre a bit of good because they've got people interested in them sort of films from a young age, and then they've watched them and maybe gone on and watched something that's a little bit more scary, and maybe they have benefited in that way. But for what they actually are, it's no.
Yeah.
A vampire was never a sexy teenage guy with blue eyes, was it? It was always like, an older guy.
Yeah. Well, it is a little
But it
weird.
is a really interesting perspective because it takes the genre and expands it because you have a mainstream and then you have comedy, la, 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 la. And now you've got horror that's branched out to be dramatic horror, comedy horror, romance horror. So you really are covering it and mirroring an entire culture in a horror way.
Exactly. But another one from the UK that done very well, which is it's a joke take on the horror genre, but it's a brilliant film, and it really did make me go and watch some others, with Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
I'm a massive.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan
That's a huge
of Simon
success
Pegg.
over here.
I can imagine it is, and I was a fan of them guys from their original sitcom that they'd done when they were young in the UK called Spaced. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it because it's
What's the title?
It's called Spaced, and it's basically Simon Pegg and Nick Frost and the guy who wrote Shaun of the Dead with them, and it's them as a lot younger, but they've got the concepts and everything from Shaun of the Dead that crop in every so often. So when they shot that film, and I saw that film for the first time, it was brilliant. But then it made so many people then go and watch Dawn of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that Simon Pegg even got a cameo in the remake of Dawn of the Dead because of Shaun of the Dead.
Uh-huh.
If I remember
I'm
correctly.
looking at Shaun of the Dead on IMDb, and that movie is 11 years old. Is that terrifying?
Just a little bit.
I recently just
That's
watched
terrible.
Juan of the Dead, which was it's like an Hispanic, it's an Hispanic kind of Shaun of the Dead. It's quite good though.
I remember seeing that a long time ago. That it's about immigrants that come and mow people's lawns. That's how it is here in America. Is that the immigrant Mexicans, they get all the crappy jobs because they'll take whatever money they can get that our stupid white Americans will not take. So, yeah, I bet that's an interesting film.
Yeah, they're actually
I'm very
Cubans.
curious. I should have rented it at the time.
Yeah, it's on demand here, and so I started watching it. It's a subtitle because it's in Spanish, but it's good. It's very funny.
We've got one that's a bit odd like that as well, called Cockneys versus Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Cockneys is like a nickname.
I think we saw that. Did you see that?
I might have. I'm not sure. I know someone mentioned it. Someone else mentioned it. Maybe Lawrence.
It's like Cockneys is like slang. It's like a nickname for Londoners, and it's basically these zombies take over London and they invade this old people's home. And you've got these old people just killing zombies.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that one's quite funny.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to check that. I know that came up sometime. I don't know if we saw it or not, but we'll definitely have to look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible, but in a good way.
Well, we definitely like the terrible in a good way kind of film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two different types of horror, isn't there? There's the people who want to be genuinely scared and like for it to be quite believable in some aspects, and then there's the stuff that's that ridiculous that you're not jumping, you're not scared, you are just laughing because it is so ridiculous.
Yeah, and I can enjoy both of those type of films. Because sometimes when we're doing the rating system, it's like, well, how do you rate, like The Shining compared to Bloodsucking Freaks, like a really silly. And it's not saying that one's better than the other, but if they both entertain you, that's the main thing. Even if it's in a different way.
Exactly.
We have what is your guys' website if people would like to find you?
It's undeadartists.com. We've got access to all the bands, all the music that they've currently released, all the music they released before they were with me as well, and a free compilation CD. So if anybody is interested in hearing what I'm going on about, on the front page of our website is a free compilation CD, 2 tracks from each band, and feel free to download it, listen to it, and you never know, you might meet your new favourite band that way.
That's very cool.
And if you're a band that would be interested in having conversations with you about getting into this label, what would they do?
The best bet is to visit the website, undeadartists.com, and on there is a button for them to submit demos and bios for themselves. But I've written a brief description on what I'd like from there. If you're going, my honest advice to anybody who's looking for a record label when they're in a band anyway, is to make sure that the visuals look good, that they've got a good write-up about themselves, and that their demos are of a good quality. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, I'm not a massive label, so I'm just giving advice for them going forward in their career. And I've had bands send me demos, and it's an iPhone recording that they've done in the middle of their their practice studio, and then they've wondered why I won't sign them. You've got to put your head forward and think, if that's what you want, if a label is what you want, make sure that you've got everything looking as smart and as professional as possible. To any band out there, whether you're starting or what, always think you're bigger than what you are, and always make your visuals and your demos and everything sound and look bigger than what you are. It will always impress.
Yes. Speaking of visuals, some of those visuals from Strange on Nocturnal are really well done. Whoever made those did an excellent job.
Yeah, he's worked. I think he does a lot of them himself. Judging by what I've seen for his new album, he's actually got a film crew that's going to be in there with him while he's doing it. So I'm really interested in seeing the results of that. And then in terms of 13 Shots, we're planning to put out a single for Valentine's Day, and where we kidnap Cupid and do a snuff video. So we're hoping to get that recorded and done in time for Valentine's Day. And I've written a movie to go with the new album, and I'll film a movie to accompany the album, which will be out in May as well.
Oh, nice.
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah, it's a concept I've had for a number of years, and it's going to be a cross between the old serials of the 50s and the Three Stooges, and then I'll bring it all together at the end in a ridiculous climax. But in terms of videos as well, Raising Hell have just put out a video they've done, like a B movie for their song called A Thing for Murder, and that video is very good. So if anyone's got a spare 7 minutes and they want to chuckle, I guarantee they should check that out as well.
Yeah. Well, do you have a personal favorite track of yours that maybe is personal to you for some reason?
For my own band?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the most personal track I have is Padded Cell Blues. It's one of the only songs that in 13 Shots that I've actually written, and it be personal lyrics. Because a lot of the times, obviously, I write in stories and I write in themes, and on this album and on that single in particular, I wanted to just introduce the odd song that was a little bit more personal. So I feel like I'm doing everything I want to do as a lyricist. So yeah, Paddy Cell Blues is most definitely the best track for me lyrically, and not just that, musically as well. It's such a good song. We really enjoy playing that.
Yeah. I really like the sound on Necrosexual. I put that on the Lawrence Harvey interview last week.
Yeah, that's what our first, that EP that Necrosexual was on. It was our first attempt at self-recording, because we used to have a producer before, and he was great, but we felt that we could do it ourselves now. We felt we were at that stage. So when Tom joined the band on drums and we needed to demonstrate how we sounded now, we actually recorded it ourselves, and the sound on Necrosexual now is brilliant. It's such a good song.
Is there any yeah, I really I like that a lot. I like the whole sound of it, and you know, the lyrics are pretty out there and it's good. But are there any venues you guys have played in that is your favorite, or any venues that you would like to like kind of dream places you'd like to perform in?
I think the best venues that we've played, the main one that sticks out in my mind was the Four Rooms in Leipzig. We played the Graveyard Rodeo. It was the first show we'd ever played out of the UK, and we show up at this venue, and it's very very gothic, and they all looked very very gothic, and we rock up, looking at 13 shots doing. We thought, oh no, we're not going to go down well in here at all. They're expecting like just full on living it. All the bands were painted up in their makeup and everything. We were the only band that wasn't painted up, and I thought, oh, this isn't going to go down well for us at all. And it was without shadow of a doubt the best show we've ever played. The crowd was loving what we were doing. We put on our best show. It was halfway through the set where I jumped on top of my guitarist and bassist back because they were in the crowd, and I ended up taking them out. And there's all four of us on the floor, and all three of us, sorry, on the floor, and we didn't hit one bum note or anything, and we're just lying on the floor. It was the most amazing show we've ever played, and the response and everything was amazing. And then think where else we I don't know if you're aware of a band called Turbo Negro.
No.
No, they're like a fun time rock and roll. They call themselves death punk. They actually got a song that Bam is a big fan of called All My Friends Are Dead, and they have like their own fan club, but it's gone further than that, and it's almost like a biker gang now. It's called the Turbo Lung, and they're all over the world, and you have like your own patches for your different areas. And we played a show for their fan club in Genk in Belgium on the last tour, and that was pretty crazy. We were playing and about 3 songs in, I turned around to just see a couple feeling that our music was that good that they needed to get it on. and they're just in the corner of the venue, having a good time. So I turned around. I was like, band, stop. I was like, guys, I'm sorry. If you're going to be doing that, you have to do it on the stage. So he picks his girl up with her legs wrapped around him in all their glory, and he just lays it on the drum kit and just, And Tom, bless him, he'd only been in the band about a month. He'd only been in the band when we'd done this tour. He'd never played a show outside of Birmingham before. And his eyes, he was like, what the hell have I let myself in for? And yeah, it was a little bit insane. So I'm sure you can imagine we've agreed to play for them again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
That's
then in terms
incredible. All your enthusiasm is just amazing. You're so like I could hear the smile on your face. So how is the live performance compared to you're so driven, and to hear you talk about each? How is the live experience as compared to the studio experience and the behind the scenes stuff?
I'm not a massive fan of the studio experience. It's being more of a performer than a singer, I find it quite difficult to capture the energy that I need to capture for the recordings. So live, it's electric. That's the reason why I'm in a band, is for the live. It runs through my veins. I have massive come downs after tours or after shows because I'm not performing. It's very much an escape from reality for me. So when we're recording, I struggle quite a bit. But George, who plays bass for 13 Shots, I've never told him this, and if he's listening to this, I do not want you to rub this in my face, George, all right? But he'd come up with... I don't know if he'd done it on purpose or if he would just genuinely was out with his mates and then come to record our vocals. But when I came to record vocals, he had a group of about 10 people in the practice studio in our lockup. And he was like, yeah, sorry, I was out with my mates and then I decided to record. vocals. So then I had to do vocals with almost like a crowd in the room,
Hmm.
and it benefited the sound of the White Noise EP because I had a crowd kind of there when I was doing it. It was like, right, I've still got to perform because there is people watching me, even if it's not a gig. But yeah,
Hmm.
live's the best feeling in the world. I don't know if you guys have ever been on stage or ever performed, but there's nothing better than it.
Yeah.
Neil has had the experience of, he does panels at the horror convention, so he'll interview people in front of the audience, and I know that he really enjoys being a performer himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's different. It's there's something to be up there and people seeing you.
Exactly, and if the way I look at it is, if I'm performing to a room of 100 people, if 10 people come to me at the end of the show and say, I've really enjoyed what you did, then that's all I care about. I care about them 10 people, not the 90 that actually think I'm a big, show off.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Because, I'm not everyone's cup of tea as a frontman. I am very in your face. I am jumping off stuff. I am like handing drinks, like shots around while we're playing shows, or I hold a cymbal in my hand and get people to whack the cymbal and stuff like that. I try to include people as much as possible, and even if we're playing to a small crowd, my performance doesn't change because you've still got to perform to them people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Some people don't like that. They just want to go and watch a band without being hassled. But unfortunately, it's not my way of doing it. I can't just be there and not hassle them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. Emil brought up the conventions and and doing the panels, and not really probably the same thing. But when I did the Danny Trejo panel, it was just me and Danny Trejo on stage, and so it was a really big crowd, and just me and one other person, and it's their interaction. And then afterwards, so many people came up and said it was like the best panel they saw, and that really is. That's one of the highlights of ever doing the show for me. It was doing it itself, and then the people's response to it afterwards.
Exactly. And I mean, in that situation, you obviously had a connection with that guy, and you were able to bounce off each other. And that energy from you two actually having a connection, even if you'd never actually met, but instantly having a connection, was making it more worthwhile for everyone else. I mean, you could do that again with somebody who was as dry as anything, who you just didn't have a connection with, and the crowd could be bored, senseless.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah. I can imagine though. I can imagine the people that you meet though. It must be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun, and actually the interaction there and the connection. That's honestly, I think that's why Annabelle and I do so well on when we do stuff together, because it's an instant connection, and we have fun playing off each other.
Oh yeah, that's all the feedback we get is the stuff we do. It's turned out we do a movie review show on YouTube as well, and we've always kind of gone back and forth about, well, how should we handle this, and how much time should we spend on each thing, and how much should we talk about the actual movie. And people across the board said they don't really care what we talk about. They just enjoy our interaction together because we goof off and act like idiots, and I guess people like that. And that is nice, because in my mind, I'm thinking I'm just being myself, and that's kind of mind-blowing. But like you said, if people have a good chemistry together, other people enjoy that. It draws people in to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've done similar things with other people, and never was it the same chemistry. And then when you find that, it's like, hey, this really works, and it's special, it's cool.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that shows sometimes in movies with casts and stuff as well, doesn't it? Like when you've got two people who genuinely are friends, like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, for example.
Right. Yeah.
When them two are on screen together, it's just amazing to watch, because that they've been best friends since college, and they just bounce off each other wonderfully.
Yeah, yeah. I really what was their second movie after Shaun of the Dead? It was something Fuzz. Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
Hot Fuzz, yes.
Which even though I love Shaun of the Dead, I actually think Hot Fuzz is even better. But that's a great movie. And it's really kind of a horror movie too. A lot of people think it's, if you haven't seen it, you kind of think it's like more of like a cop film, but it really is a horror film if you watch it.
It is 100%. And what I found as well is that it's a lot smarter written, Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
It's a very smart movie, but because it was based where it was based, speaking to friends of mine who were overseas, they didn't quite get it, especially if they'd never been to England and seen them little villages. They never quite got it. But it is like that. If you know, if I go into a village and they don't know me, they will turn and look at me and wonder where I come from and stuff.
Yeah, see, I've never been to England, but I'm from a small town on Cape that's near big places, like Boston. So maybe that's why I could relate to the movie.
Well, yeah, I can imagine.
You're from a very, very small town.
Yes, I am a very small town. Yeah.
And then, have you seen their final one that they've done, The World's End?
Yeah, I was not really big on it. I didn't like it as much as the other two.
It was fine until the heads started exploding and the people got turned into robots. As soon as it got there, I thought they'd gone a little bit too far.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was really.
Yep.
It's too bad because I really do love all their other work, even some of the movies that they've made, not together. And yeah, that one to me was a letdown. It's too bad.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoyed Paul a lot more than I
did too.
enjoyed
Yeah.
that one.
Mhm.
Paul's brilliant.
Yeah, that's really fun. Who's is it Seth Rogen as the voice of Paul?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny because I've watched a question and answer with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and they said that their original idea for Paul was that they wanted him to be voiced by Rip Torn.
Oh, nice.
Oh, really?
And he was to be, that moody character that Rip Torn is in Men in Black.
Uh-huh.
It was to be that sort of voice and that sort of character for Paul.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they met Seth Rogen and Seth Rogen tried it out, they realised, oh no, actually, it could be more fun if he was this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that one's really underrated. I don't really hear many people, talking about it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Now, when what's like the farthest you've been for like a road trip for a performance?
The furthest we've been is into Germany, but May this year when we put out the new album, we're going into more countries a bit further out. So it's UK, France, Belgium, Germany, Czech Republic, and then I believe we'll be going from the Czech Republic to Hungary to play Budapest, and then into Austria to play in Austria, and then back into Germany for our final song, where we get our zombie back that was stolen from us on our last gig, and then drive home. So we'll be properly road tripping it this year, I think.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any stories from the road themselves? Outside of the performance.
Oh, there's a couple.
Yeah,
The big one really is the zombie situation. We have in our band photos, you'll see our zombie, which Tom rather creatively named Zombie, and he joined us on our tour, and everybody was getting their pictures taken with him and everything. And then the final show of the tour, we played this room that had a glass roof above the stage, so people who were upstairs could look down at the stage, which was a little bit odd, and a throne on the side of the stage, this big throne. So we put this zombie on the throne with a crown on its head, and we were playing the show and everything was great. And then we come off the show, we were drinking and singing, and then we realised that our zombie had got stolen. And somebody had pinched the zombie. So Tom got upset because he'd had this zombie since he was 13 years old. So we're going around trying to find the zombie, and we couldn't find it. We get home, and we thought, for a joke, we put a wanted sign on our Facebook page. So we put this wanted sign up that our zombie had been stolen, and that we'd give a T-shirt away to anybody who could tell us the whereabouts of the zombie. Well, we got like loads of people contacting us with conspiracy stories on what had happened to the zombie. And then it turns out that they found him, and they'd found him in the cellar of the venue that we'd played. So somebody had clearly nicked the zombie and then put it in the cellar. So at the moment he's in a box in this German town, and we're waiting for him to play that show again so we can get our zombie back. And then other than that, it's just a bit of, the normal partying stuff, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll say if you ever like film any type of road trips, you should film that one, and it should be to get our zombie back.
Exactly. I mean, my wife's an artist, and she's actually drawing me at the moment a picture of the zombie, and I want to do a wanted poster T-shirt with the zombie on it.
That would be perfect.
And make a bit of a big deal about the fact that we're getting it back, because we were properly gutted when it had got stolen.
Do you still have the correspondence from these people that were doing all these crazy theories and such that you could take little quotes from?
I'm sure I could find them. Definitely sure I could find them. But I mean, that show itself was crazy. I mean, it was the 1st of December, so it was the first festive day. They had a beautiful market in the middle of their town and everything. And because this market was on, we couldn't go on till late, so we got on about 1-2 o'clock in the morning. And we're playing the show, and everyone there is people who wouldn't normally listen to our music. But they were having a good time, and that was great. That was the purpose of doing being in 13 Shots, was opening the genre to people who wouldn't normally listen to it.
Yeah.
And as I said, there's this glass roof above the stage, and I'm playing, and I can hear someone tapping on that glass roof. So I look up, and there's a man who's just dropped his trousers and just sat on the glass roof. And I was like, that's not what I want to see, That's not it. That's not the game. And then we played, because Tom hadn't been in the band that long, so we weren't able to rehearse all our songs. So I think we played about an hour and a half, up to 2 hours, and they wanted more songs, and we didn't really have any. So we just opened it up to a karaoke led by Tom, and we were just singing Christmas carols and really bad versions of hip-hop songs for about another hour, really. We were just like, if anyone wants to sing, there's the microphone, come up and do your thing.
That's always fun.
Yeah, that's good, because you turned an experience that was whatever, and then you made the best of it.
Yeah, it's the way you have to do it sometimes, especially when you're at the level we're at, where we're not playing proper venues all the time. So sometimes we will be playing a pub, and we are literally background noise for people who are having a drink. So you have to make the best of the situation, and there's been times where we've done that, and I've played shows, and during guitar solos I've gone and sat at tables with people who are actually having a drink and just had a general chat with them, and stuff like that. You make the most out of the places that you play. But in general, wouldn't change it for the world.
If someone saw you at a show, what's your drink of choice?
Peppermint and chamomile tea.
Oh, okay, very very basic. All right, no alcohol then.
I do drink, but on very rare occasions, because most of the time I am designated driver.
Okay.
So I have to behave myself, and I've got a responsibility of making sure my guys get home safely and everything like that. But when we're on tour, I always have one night that I have my night, and I tend to have a day off and the day after it, and I go a little bit crazy. And that if on them nights it's Jack Daniels and Coke. But I warn you. You feed me alcohol at your own peril. We played a music festival last year, and I had a bit too much and ended up smashing toilets on a fire. That was quite good fun.
It sounds like an awesome time.
And
I like it.
And then I was singing soccer, as it is in the States. I was singing soccer songs to a bunch of Germans in their faces the last time I'd done it. Because obviously there's a big rivalry between England and Germany in soccer, so I had to rub it in a little bit there. But yeah, so that's why I probably only do it once or twice a year. Really, I'm spending the rest of the time recovering from it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has nothing with the interview, but I just leaned back in my chair and there's a spider directly in front of my eye coming down from my ceiling.
Good to know.
Yeah. I think it's fitting for the interview.
I think so.
Yeah, I put him on the floor. I didn't want to squish him. Now, one of the bands we did not mention too much about is the Bloodstrings. Would you like to say something about them?
Yeah, the Bloodstrings are a band that I met when we done our first European tour, and they're a band who I feel have got an awful lot of potential. They're just starting, and they've released their first album with myself. They paid for vinyl themselves, and then I put out their album digitally. And I was really impressed with their passion and their enthusiasm for shows that I've actually funded their CDs as well now, which is the first time I've ever released a CD that isn't my own band. They arrived today and they look great. And they're from Germany and they're coming to the UK and doing their first UK tour in February. And they're very, rock and roll, psychobilly, got a bit of a creep show feel to them, but I think they've got so much potential in what they're doing. I really hope that I think when you're a band in one country, you want to play another, and because we're English, we're not so keen on our scene, and we want to play their scene so badly. And it's the same for them. They've played Germany, and now they want to play England, and they've got these dreams of what it's like to play in the UK. And I just really hope that they're not let down, because it can be a bit hit and miss. But I guess the experience is what you make of it, and they've got the right attitudes and the right enthusiasm, and I'm sure that they're going to have a great time.
Well, hopefully the more and more people that you build up here in the UK, and you have them kind of push through that hard time, then you're going to pull the people out that don't even realize that scene is happening. Yeah,
exactly. And that's why we started very small with the festival, because I would have loved, my dream would have been to have Strange playing it as well, and having the Bloodstrings come over, and have Sylphia come over, and have Raising Hell come over, and have all these bands, just bringing over loads of foreign bands to play also. But you run the risk then of it not being, if you start too big too soon, it could have not worked. So starting it small, and the response this week has been crazy. We've had really good press, really good response to it, that I think we're actually talking about next year making a 2-day festival. And Tommy mentioned to me today that he's actually found a venue in Bristol where he's going to run a horror convention in October.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Tommy's a very passionate guy about the genre and about the scene, and he's doing everything in his power. And if he puts his mind to it, he'll put on a killer horror convention in Bristol. It will be really worthwhile, for people to go to it. So I'm hoping we have that organised in time for the festival for him. So the people who are going to go to his convention are going to be in that room. So that's what we need to promote it there for him, really.
Mm-hmm. And it's not your label, but his label. I do like that they put out actual cassettes.
Yes.
Which I think is very cool.
Yeah, it's something that's coming back into fashion, actually, the cassettes. And Tommy he's got a really good ear for bands that work well together, and he's put out some really, really, really good cassettes. And his band are great as well, Loop and Tooth. They're a very new band. They've only been around a couple of months, but they've got so much potential. I'm hoping that it's going to be the start of a beautiful friendship for me and Tommy, and I can actually drag them guys through Europe with us, and we have some crazy experiences, because they're a band, and he's a guy who deserves all the success in the world.
Mm-hmm. I think that's commendable too, that you guys, you both have your own deal, but you guys work together.
Yeah, I think the best way of doing it, especially within this genre, is to not treat each other as competition. So there's been a couple of bands that he sent my way, and there's been a couple of bands I've sent his way. and we've both got very different ideas on what we want from our record label. But because of that, we can work very well together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're the only ones in the UK as well that do what we do, me and Tommy. So, yeah, I'm pleased that we're working together, and I'm making a deliberate point of making sure that everyone knows that it is me and Tommy working together. It's Undead Artists and Graveyard Calling who are working together on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Because
I was gonna say I know a lot of the tracks on his various CDs or cassettes are instrumentals, which I think I don't think you guys really do much of.
no, I had one guy approach me about joining my label who was instrumental, who he'd released, a guy called Sam Haynes,
Mm-hmm.
and
He does great Halloween tracks, by the way. Great
oh
Halloween music.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's superb. But I listened to him, and I said to him genuinely, there I would be making more from you than you would be from me. And that's not how I want to work it. As I said before, I want to be there to support my bands and help them improve. Where if he joins me, because of what he does, I can't help him with gigs. I would literally just be releasing his music, but he already releases his music and makes a good living from it. So it'll be me who'll be benefiting from that, not him.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'm really sorry that I can't help you, but I put him in touch with a few people who actually write jingles for TV adverts and stuff like that. And I think he'd be brilliant at something like that.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I know I've talked to him before about using some of his tracks on various videos because they're just great, creepy, music. A lot. He does a lot of Halloween stuff.
Yeah, he does, and he's very, very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Very good at it.
So, besides the festival, what else do you have coming up?
So I've obviously got the release of for 13 Shots in May. We'll have the release of our album and a full European tour to promote it. The Bloodstrings are in the UK in February. Sylphia and the Corpse Boners are just going to continue to play shows in and around. Some of their band members are still in college and stuff like that and university, so they do it in and around their shows, but they'll be promoting their new EP. Raising Hell are going to have a new EP out, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to get them into Germany to play a few shows because I think it'll be good exposure for them. And then Strange is working on his crazy concepts that we thought was going to come out in April, but it will probably be out a little bit later now. But that's fine for me. I'd rather him take his time and get it absolutely perfect and exactly how he wants it than rush it and put out something he wasn't happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And special thanks to Stranger Nocturnal. He's the man who does our theme song.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I think... Did I put that song on the compilation? I can't remember if I did or not.
Yep. I believe it is.
Yeah, I thought I did put it on there. But yeah, he's particularly proud of that song as well.
Yeah, he just I don't know what the correct term is, but he did a new version of it.
Yeah, he's done remixed a load of his old songs for a Greatest Hits album, which was really, really impressive. Actually, the sound and the quality of that album.
Yeah.
I get the sense that I was thinking of how Strange has been so loyal with Without Your Head and so generous, and but just the sense of artistic integrity, and also that he's so loyal. And I can see that when you are making connections with people, it's not just about getting in here and getting in there. It's you're making a real genuine connection with another person and developing that.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, I'll never say that I know everything, and I'm not perfect, and I'm learning, and I would rather have people who are the same as me, to be honest, and just passionate about what they do, and might be a little bit misunderstood, but they just need somebody to turn around and say, you know what, I believe in you. And I think that is something that Strange needs. He needs to know that people out there believe in what he does and that success will come from it. And that's basically what I try to encourage him to just be himself and just continue to do exactly what he does, because it will work.
Well, I'm so glad you found him, because he's so talented. He's so talented, and he's done so much really on his own, and to have come across you, and I'm very happy for him as a friend.
Yeah, I'm happy too.
Very cool. Well, we want to thank you for coming on tonight, and of course, thank you for helping out for Artist of the Month in the last 2 months, the final month of 2014 and to kick off 2015.
No, not a problem, and thank you very much for your support from the start of the label. It's been very much appreciated, and I hope that we can be help in the future.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll both keep in touch with one another. You let us know what's going on with you, and we'll post about a new. You can come back to the show if you'd like. And
Yeah,
just
brilliant.
Keep us,
Thank you. That would be great.
Yeah.
And then, as I said
just keep us notified.
Hi, this is Michael Graves, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.